I got ripped by Patrick for that.
Oh, it's all right.
Probably a little older than he is.
Yeah, and I said, you and I are old enough to remember when the NFL wasn't 17. He goes, you are.
It was 1978.
Yeah.
78.
Mick,
Yeah.
in a process like this where you guys are implementing a new offense and incorporating new plays, what kind of leeway does a quarterback have when it comes to that's checking into another play? Or
Yeah, I think when you go into installing the offense, there's certain rules that come into play with certain things that you can do, whether it's run game or pass game, and then you go into each game plan week saying, hey, we're going to try and do some things versus certain looks and alert plays out of this, check plays to that, and we try and get on the same page as coaches and players from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then obviously Saturday, sit down, really iron out, cross the I's, cross the T's and dot the I's, and make sure they're all on the same page, ready to go. And then by Sunday morning, Sunday during the game, we're all on the same page and understand that we're going to try and do this if we get this, and try and do that if we get that.
so when Derek gets the line of scrimmage, at this point, he can check into something based on the look that he's getting.
Yeah, Derek plays quarterback and he runs our offense, on the field. So he's running our offense, and whatever the game plan is for that specific Sunday, he's going to try and do that.
You guys had the same offensive line for 72% of the snaps this week. I know Thayer and North switched a little. Is that closer to finding what you want, or is that just a result of Andre being out? And
Well, Andre was out with injury, so obviously Dylan had to step up and play center for most of the game, other than playing just guard. But he did a very good job. Obviously, Dylan came in there and did a very good job because center obviously involves communicating, getting guys on the same page, getting calls out, making sure we're on the same page, almost similar to the quarterback like he asked about earlier. And he did a very good job of that. So, in terms of the rotation, in terms of guy playing, obviously you saw Thayer and Jermaine play both right tackle, and the guards kind of stayed the same because Dylan was at center. Again, all those guys are competing every single day in practice, and I think you'll continue to see, the same type of thing in moving forward.
Is it fair to say ideally you want 5 guys to emerge? You want to have a set 5 at some point? Is that fair? Or?
No, I think we want to play guys who give us the best chance to win. And I think if we have 7 guys or 8 guys or 9 guys that give us the best chance to win and get them in there, I think that's what we're going to try and do, whether that's receiver, whether that's offensive line or running back.
Mick, first game, you were down big. Then
Yeah.
this game, you were up big, but you also had situations with penalties that you can't run in. Obviously, that dictates the running game a lot. But how important is it for this Raider team to reach their expectations to get that running game going?
Yeah, and you brought up the penalties, right? I think penalties and turnovers are things we preach from a fundamental standpoint from day one in the phase 2 of the offseason, right? Those are the big things that we try and preach, and you can't really get a drive going if you fall behind. Obviously, in the first drive of the game, we overcame some of those things, but as the game goes on, you obviously can't do that. And those are fundamental things that we can kind of hopefully correct from a week-to-week basis and continue to talk about. And like you said, as an offense, you want to try and be as balanced as possible, whether it's run game, pass game. You want to try and establish an efficient time passing game and stay ahead down distance. We're going to have a difficult time of being in 3rd and 10 plus a number of times. So if we're able to do that and stay ahead down distance, whether that's, making sure we get the ball on time or getting our hat on a hat in the running game, that's what we're going to try and do so we're not in 3rd and long for most of the game.
Is that teaching tool, not that you ever want to be in that situation, but does it become a little bit easier to explain when you have now data to show them, like, this is what happens when we're in 3rd and long?
That's the beauty of coaching. Obviously you get more sample size, you can coach off of more things, and you go back to phase 2, we had no examples, and then you go to training camp and you build it and keep coaching the finer points of things, and that helps. That helps guys learn, and that helps guys really take things into, I would say, next level, understanding.
What were the Cardinals doing with Devontae that may have given you guys some trouble there? It seemed like you couldn't give him the ball as much as you probably wanted to.
The Cardinals did a very good job. Vance did a good job. Obviously, we got him involved a little early and then later in the game. But they were playing their defense to put a little more split safety. And, obviously Derek was doing a good job of finding the guys that dictated the coverage. We talked about it last week, right? What's the quarterback's job of going to certain things versus certain coverage? And based on the coverage, if, the Cardinals were able to take something away, then we were able to actually execute a different part of our game plan. So the Cardinals did a good job. Look, they fought hard for 60 minutes. They obviously did a good job in the second half. We didn't do a good enough job offensively of doing our job and doing things right there. And hats off to them because they played really hard for 60 minutes.
When you watch the film, do you get the sense like it's right there, like a play or so away?
Yeah, look, it's the NFL. We talked about last week. Every game's hard. you got to fight for 60 minutes because you obviously have to understand that when you fight and strain for that long, it may not be enough because it isn't. Because every team's good, every team we play is talented. Tennessee, we're going to play this week, is coached very well. Coach Vrabel does a great job. They have very good players. Simmons, Byard, they're very good. And, it's going to be a battle this week. It's going to be a tough test, and it's going to come down to the end. And we're going to have to execute in the later portion of the game to make sure we win the game.
Mick, when you have a talent like Devontae, obviously you don't want to force it with all the other weapons that you have.
Yeah.
But when they are purposely taking him away, do you have to be a little bit more creative because you've got to get the ball in his hands at some point?
I think we have to just run our offense, and again, to your point earlier, it wasn't things we were doing. We were trying to stay aggressive and win the game, but we had too many negative plays, we had too many penalties, and we had too many, I would say just pre-snap errors. We have to eliminate those first as a unit to worry about everything else.
Coach, you talk about Jeffrey Simmons and also Kevin Byard on the back end. Can you talk about what those two bring to the table in terms of a challenge and facing them this week?
Yeah, Simmons is an elite player. He obviously has great size, great length, great explosiveness, can play the run, play the pass. There's a reason he was an all-pro player, and he just has a high motor. For a guy that big, who's that strong and that explosive, he plays every snap to the end. So, you have to be competitive and fight hard for, the whole entire game against him because he's productive first, second, third down in the red area. And then, Byard, he's all over the place. They use him in very different ways, whether it's coverage, whether that's in the deep portion of the field. He reads the quarterback very well. They use him as a blitzer. So you have to be ready for him in terms of every scenario, again, in every situation. Where do those guys make their plays? They make them early downs, but they also make them a third down in the red area. So we have to make sure that, they create negative plays in the game. We have to try and eliminate those. But again, they're coached very well. Mike Vrabel does a great job with those guys, and they have a high motor and they compete hard. They're a tough team, so we have to be ready to go on Sunday.
Where do you think the offensive line is in terms of kind of their communication and working together? I know there was one play. Well, I started asking about a specific play without remembering the moment, but it looked like there was just a free rusher that somebody missed a block. But when you watch it back, it seemed like I think the right tackle thought he was turning him to the right guard and then turned to the outside and then just kind of left the path. So is that just a communication thing? Is that I guess where are you on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. The communication is the key focus thing on the offensive line, and every single different look on defense presents a different communication tool they have to use. And again, I'm not sure what specific play you're talking about, but again, what is the core of the problem sometimes in the offensive line or any position? It's the communication factor and not understanding what their job is in that specific play. And look, those are going to happen on certain plays. And what you do on Monday morning as a coach, you try and go back and coach that up and say, well, if we get this look and we get this coverage, we're going to try and make sure we do this and do that and communicate this a little bit better.
Obviously, a couple of penalties for Thayer, but
Yeah.
taking those out of the equation, how do you think he graded out when you watched him perform?
Again, the penalty and the two penalties really were killer in terms of when you try and evaluate the game, because those are obviously things we're trying to eliminate. But Thayer's done a very good job. He's working really hard. Obviously, playing right tackle is a little different than playing, I would say, a receiver position as a rookie. Your things happen faster. You have to be physical. You have to be ready to go. And then, obviously, I would say, just from a preparation standpoint, it's probably a different thing in terms of college. So you're taking that all on as a rookie. We talked about it before with young guys. They're trying to figure themselves out. How are they going to prepare? How are they going to get their body right? How are they going to, I would say, come in and get treatment? So all those things are combined into one. I think Thayer's doing a good job, and I think the best thing Thayer's doing is he's competing and working really hard to try and get better every single day.
Last week, Josh mentioned on the interceptions that Derek had against the Chargers, some mechanical issues. I'm sure that's something you guys go over, you and Derek. What have you seen from Derek as far as the mechanics the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think Derek did a good job on Sunday. He got the ball out on time. He was moving in the pocket. We obviously had the one sack on the first series, and that really wasn't his issue. That was more of a protection issue. But I thought Derek threw the ball well. He got the ball out. He got the ball on time. He was active in the pocket. And in terms of just every tiny little critique, I have nothing really to complain about Derek in terms of that sense. If I threw the ball great on Sunday.
What is kind of the next step you want to see from him in terms of just understanding the overall concept of what you're trying to do?
I think the next step overall is the whole entire offense. I think we want to try and be consistent on a play-to-play basis. I think that's the end of the day what we have to try and do. Do the fundamentals right. Do your job 100% of the time, and the rest takes care of itself. You can't do that for one half of the game. You can't do that for a quarter. You got to try and do it for the entirety of the game. We're going to try and stay aggressive and try and score some points. That's our job on offense. We have to score points. That's why that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to play the game from an offensive standpoint, and it's our duty as a team to try and put points on the board.
It's been 48 hours, and guys are moving on from the other day. But how have you kind of felt about their response? Did you like how they came out of the game in terms of being?
I think the response from these guys, just from a week-to-week basis, whether that was like in phase 2 or training camp, they want to get better. They want to be coached, and I really appreciate that from them. They're not going to hang their head, nor is anybody. They want to try and improve and learn that as a tool and say, hey, what can we do next time to really kind of make sure we get this right and get a W in the winning column.
When a team you're playing on Sunday plays on Monday night, do you watch the game kind of like, do you have like aha moments when you're watching it in a way like, oh, that's going to work? Or what's it like watching?
No, I had, if you're asking me if I had it on my office while I was watching tape, I did. For sure. I had it on there. No, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You sit there and you wait on it, and Joe Harrington's our video guy. He does a great job. He already had half the game in the system as it was going on, the TV copy, in case you wanted to watch it. So he's the best in the business in terms of that standpoint. But yeah, you watch it on TV and you kind of go through it and see. You think something's on tape, and you're like, oh, I think that was this on the TV copy. Then you go watch it on tape, you're like, oh no, it was that. But no, you kind of wait till the tape really comes in to kind of fully watch it and all that kind of thing. But I did have it on in my office, if that's what you're asking.
All right, guys, all set? Great, thank you.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Have a good one, huh?
You too.
Don't feel it.
You got me last week, I'm sorry.
All right, we'll get started with questions for Coach Graham.
Obviously, you guys were on the field for a lot of plays in the second half on Sunday. How much do you think maybe that played a role in the Cardinals kind of finding some success down the stretch?
The reason why they found success is their players performed. They did a good job. Guys made plays for them. So I mean, again, whether we're out there for whatever many plays, it doesn't really matter. We all have a job to do. So, it always comes down to performance, and they did a good job, made plays when they needed it, and they won the game.
Patrick, Chandler Jones, it seemed like, or talking to Josh McDaniels, he talked about how he was asked to rush a certain way. Mm-hmm. It probably takes some unselfishness to do that because your numbers might not reflect what you're out there doing. Was that a plan to kind of have him rush the way that he did?
Well, I mean, again, I can't speak for Josh, but just talk about the plan. When you're dealing with someone like Murray, I mean, you can't rush him the same way you're going to rush everybody else. I don't think that's a recipe for, success, in my opinion. So what we do is we try to fit the game plan for the opponent. And, I thought Chan had some great rushes during the game, in terms of, keeping them in the pocket, the unselfishness, like you said, in terms of, forcing it to other guys. And we made some plays in there in the pocket. And, fortunately, they made a few more plays than we made, and that's why they won the game. But you have to change the plan based on the quarterback. Each quarterback is different, just like this week. With Tennessee, it's going to be different. You got another mobile quarterback back there, and we're going to have to figure out the best plan to take care of him as well.
Patrick, when you got a guy like Luke Masterson that played so well in the preseason, do you have to create ways to get him more reps?
Well, the thing that we do, again, we look at the game plan and what we think is going to be best. And I think Luke's doing it. Again, I can't speak for Tom in terms of the special teams part of it, but I know Luke is preparing during the week, and Luke is working hard to improve and get the concepts of the defense. And he performed well in the preseason. And when his opportunity comes up, the one thing I could bank on, he'll be ready. I mean, he's a student of the game. He studies hard. In practice, he's working hard. And when his time comes, he'll be ready to rock and roll.
Is that kind of along the same lines with Deshaun Bauer, who played well in the preseason?
Yes, sir.
And then also Malcolm Kuntz as well.
Mm-hmm. Same thing. I mean, the guys we have 53-man roster, and it's real limited how many players you have out there. It's not like college, and guys have to be ready when their name is called, and those guys work hard every day. They work hard, they study hard. They're young players that are continuing to grow, and when their opportunity comes up, I'm sure they'll be ready.
Throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, what have you seen from Jayon Brown that you liked, and what element do you believe he adds to this defense?
The versatility. You got a linebacker who can cover. You got a linebacker who could blitz. You got a linebacker who could also serve as a signal caller in terms of a communicator out there on the field. And his veteran leadership, both on the field and off the field, are two things that really stand out right there for me. So for me, he's done everything we've asked him to do. You know, he's been physical in the run game. He's been able to cover guys when we asked him to. So a lot of good things from Jayon right now.
On the back end of that, you're going up against a pretty popular running back, but you guys have done pretty well against stopping the run. How optimistic are you with your prior success going into Derrick Henry?
Well, I've never gone against Henry before, so this is interesting. I've admired from afar because as a defensive coach, you know, there's not too many things we like about offense, but when you see a guy that can run the ball and the way he runs the ball and the physicality, you know, I wish he would have switched over to defensive end or linebacker at some point. But I'm excited about the challenge. You know, you hear so much about him throughout the league and over the years, and really haven't had a chance to face him. The only time I faced him was in 2018 in the preseason, and he was only out there for one drive when I was at Green Bay. So this is gonna be fun because he challenges you. You know, the combination of him, the offensive line, I think the toughness of that whole team, that whole organization, starting with, you know, Vrabel, J-Rob, those guys, they've built a tough football team. You know, they built a real tough football team. You know, guys with good size, and it's gonna be football. Like it's gonna be fun to be a part of. I'm looking forward to it. And I heard the atmosphere down there is really good.
Is that a mentality that has to be matched from your guys?
Well, you see it when you watch the tape. Their toughness jumps off the tape. And, you know, the little bit I know about Mike and the little bit I know about J-Rob, those are two tough guys. So, I mean, it's in the image of the leadership of the organization. So, I mean, we want to have a tough football team. You know, Coach talked about in his opening press conference, you know, tough, smart football team that performs well under pressure. So it's going to be a challenge, and, you know, I'm looking forward to it.
Coach, what do you see from Treylon Burks?
I mean, just, again, some explosion there, you know, explosiveness. When they've gone to him, he's been ready to go. You know, so you see that, and you know, you always expect young players to have a little, you know, you wonder how that's going to work out early on, but the speed is the one thing that shows up, and going down the field, you know, that's one thing that shows up definitely when you watch the tape.
What is the biggest challenge you're facing Henry? What's the biggest thing?
Tackling him. You know, tackling him is going to be a tough deal. I mean, this is a big man. I've seen, like I said, I only saw him one time live and in person. He is a big man. You know, there's not a lot of people on the planet that look like him. So the tackling is the number one thing, and then the relentlessness. You know, this is a back that could get the ball 25, 30 times in a game if you let him, you know. So, I mean, it's going to be relentless. He's going to keep coming at you. You know, I think back, I'm not comparing him to Marshawn Lynch, but I just remember Marshawn's the best I ever went against in terms of coaching and just how it would build throughout the game. You know, that third quarter was tough, man. It was tough, you know, because Marshawn was still going. And you see some of that, you know, some of the playoff games I've seen in the past with Henry. They just keep building and they start wearing on you. So, you know, you got to be ready to tackle him. And you got to be ready to tackle him for 4 quarters. And understand it's not going to be a one-man show. It's going to be a whole bunch of guys that got to get to him. Plus, they do a good job blocking. So, you know, it's going to be tough.
Do you approach tackling him differently, or is it just doubling down on their fundamentals?
You know, it's funny. The league is about the people, and you got to know who you're going against. No different than the question that was asked about the quarterback. I think you have to adjust. I know you have to adjust your plan, whether it's tackling a quarterback, tackling a receiver, tackling a back. The plan has to be suited for that person, you know, because each person is unique. So you definitely got to look at it differently. But it comes back down to fundamentals, you know, of tackling. It's just, okay, you got ID, like, how are we going to get this person down?
Through 2 weeks, are you happy with your pass rush? What are things you think are going well and things you want to see improved on?
Anytime, you know, we're 0-2 right now, there's been improvement, I would say that. But am I happy? No, because we haven't won. So, you know, when we win, that's when I'm happy, you know. And even then, I'm slightly happy, to be honest with you again. But so we have some things to work on. I got to do a better job coaching. Getting those guys, you know, and then we'll keep working on it as we keep going through this process.
Coach, on the 2-point conversion play that took like 7 minutes, I feel like, was there something that you wanted to be done differently, or is it just like one of those plays that it develops and
A failed conversion, that would help. But yeah, just, you know, some things there. You know, I mean, the guys did a great job in coverage. They did a great job in coverage, and the guys were rushing really. I mean, the effort was there, and, you know, just came down to executing. They executed better. They, you know, their player made a play, and you know, we just go back to the drawing board and be ready to go next time, because it's not going to be the last time we have a 2-point conversion, 2-point play this season, so be ready to go.
Let's do final question for Vic.
Seems like Abramson been pretty solid in the first 2 games. What have you seen from him? What has he brought to the table as far as what you thought coming in? What have you seen firsthand from him?
You know, intelligent player. You know, knew that from the time I met him when we interviewed him at Mississippi State when I think I was at Miami, I believe. Intelligent player, understands football, understands concepts, versatility that shows up. You know, you can see moving him around a little bit in different spots. So, and he loves football. So those are some positives right there in terms of things to work with. Any football player that has, you know, some football intelligence, loves the game, has some versatility, those are usually guys that we like to have around.
Great.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.